Hi everyone, today we're going to be looking at doing a linear search algorithm in Swift. So here I've got an array called myNumberArray. I've got 15 elements here, obviously unsorted, right, numbers. So let's go ahead and search through them. Let's build a function. So I'm going to go ahead and build a function called, let's call it linear search find. And this function, it's going to take two parameters. One is a integer, so let me just go ahead and write that in, and the second parameter is a array. Let's call this the array, and let me explain what we're going to put in here in a sec. So the integer is the integer that we're going to be searching for, and the array is going to be the array that we're going to be searching in, right? And we're gonna also be returning an array, and I'll explain why it's an array and not an integer. So we're gonna be returning where we find the integer. So this function is gonna ask, okay, what integer do you want to search for? Where do you want to search it in? So what number do you want to search for in what array? And then we're gonna return the place of that number if we find it in the array. The reason it's an array and not an integer, the reason it's an array of integers and not just one integer is because let's say if you're searching for 6, there's multiple 6s here. So I'm going to be returning the location of multiple elements. Okay, so it's going to give me an error here. I'm just going to return, I don't know, I'm going to return something. I'll fix this later. I just don't like errors while I'm working. Okay, so how do we do this? So the first thing that you want to do is you want to create a variable. You want to create a variable that will hold the array of integers that we're going to be returning. So I'm going to call this returned integer array. Okay. And it's going to be of type integer, and it's empty right now. Okay, and we're just going to go through a simple loop here. So we're going to go for index in 0 2, and doing this, I'll explain what this is in a second. Okay, so we're looping through here. This is the loop index, and we're going to go from 0 to the array count. So the array is this thing right here, and whatever the count of this thing, we're going to go through 0 to whatever the count is. So in this case, it's 15. We're going to go 0 to 15. However, 0 to 15, we're going to get an error saying index out of range because there's 15 elements here, but since an array is 0 index, it only goes up to 14. So that's why I didn't say 2, which is what this is. This thing right here essentially says, well, got the wrong one. This thing right here says 0 to that number, but not including that number. So if this number happens to be 15, so 0 to 15 without including 15. So it's going to be 0 to 14. Cool. Okay, so we're going to loop through the array, and we're just going to have a simple if statement in this array. We're going to say if the number that we're searching for, right, I called it a number, is equal to the array and the index, right? So in the first iteration it's going to be 0, so it's going to be this element. Then the second iteration will be 1, so it'll be this element. If the number that we're looking for is the same as this particular element in the array, then simply increment, so take the returned integer array that we created up here and simply append the index. Cool. And that should work. The last thing we have to do is change this up. Obviously, we don't want to just return a 9. We want to return the returned integer array. And our function is done. So now let's go ahead and call up our function. It's called linearSearchFind. And we're going to find a number. Let's find the number 8, for example, in the array myNumberArray. And it should return a 1 here, which is perfect. Well, what does this one say? This one says that, yes, we found the number 8 in the element number 1, because remember, this is 0. If I were to find, let's say, 6, if I were to search for 6, it should throw out 0, element 3, right? 1, 2, 3, and element 12, because there's another 6 right here. Let's see if there's other numbers that repeat. No, they don't. Let's go ahead and do 65 here again, just so that we see if it works. And I go 65 here, and 65 works. Element 9 and element 15. Perfect. Obviously, this is a primitive way of searching for things. Firstly, it traverses through every element of the array, so the time complexity of this is atrocious. Not the most ideal way of searching for things, but this is how you implement a linear search algorithm. And of course, I didn't put a guard here, making sure that there is actually something in the array or whatever, but this is really the bare bones of how to do a linear search algorithm. All right, thank you for watching.